Hello everyone and welcome to The No Show. I'll be your host Nathan Orenstein and today I'm going to be reviewing Conclave. Conclave is written by Peter Straughan, directed by Edward Berger, and stars Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini, Lucian Msamati, Carlos Diehz, and Sergio Castellitto. When the Pope unexpectedly dies of a heart attack, Cardinal Lawrence must summon the rest of the cardinals of the Catholic Church for a conclave, in which the next Pope will be elected. It is based on the novel of the same name by Robert Harris. With the exception of Dune Part 2, Conclave is, in my opinion at least, the first film of the year that truly feels like it'll be a real contender at the Oscars. It's a modern political mystery thriller thing told through the lens of the Catholic Church, and if that's not the recipe for an Academy darling, then I don't know what is. I don't think I'd go as far as calling it Oscar bait, but it's probably the next closest thing. And while all this is almost certainly true, that doesn't take away from how good this movie is. And honestly, Conclave is going to be very deserving of all the nominations it inevitably gets. Let's start with the writing, which is admittedly probably the shakiest part of this film. Let me describe how a papal conclave works though, because I didn't know until I saw this movie. All the cardinals are brought to the Vatican where they're sequestered until a new pope is elected from amongst them. To win the election, a candidate needs a 2/3 majority of the vote. Votes will continue to happen until a 2/3 majority is met, and this process can take multiple days. This entire process is overseen by the Cardinal Dean, who also votes in the election and is able to be voted for. That about catches us up to speed. Let's get into the actual plot now. So Cardinal Lawrence, played by Ralph Fiennes, is the Cardinal Dean in this scenario. He himself aligns with the more liberal option amongst the primary nominees, but has no interest himself in being the next pope, despite other people voting for him due to his strong leadership. Something unexpected happens during the conclave, though, involving one of the opposing nominees, which forces Cardinal Lawrence to look into the situation and basically follow a rabbit hole of secrets and scandals. This is where the movie was a bit hit or miss for me. Some of the story beats here relating to these twists and turns from these scandals can feel a bit too pulpy for my tastes. I'm not opposed to a bit of sensationalism in a movie like this, don't get me wrong, but it's obvious that this movie takes itself pretty seriously, even to the point of overindulgence at times. It doesn't always work when meshing this pulpy mystery thriller side of things with this serious papal politics scenario. And there were definitely a couple times where I found myself rolling my eyes. That being said, I was still on the edge of my seat pretty much from start to finish here. While the broader narrative choices being made didn't always sit with me, I did find the dialogue to be generally very intriguing. There's a good amount of political subterfuge here, which also brushes up with the concept and ideals of Catholicism as a whole, and I found that to be a really compelling framework. We're also experiencing this story play out through the eyes of Cardinal Lawrence, who I found to be one of the most interesting protagonists of the entire year. I won't go into that for fear of spoiling anything, but I will say that his character is the glue that pulls this heavy story together, even in moments that might come off a bit goofy. I think this probably walks away with a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination, and to be honest, I wouldn't complain at all if it did. Ralph Fiennes has always been great, but this just might be the best he's ever been. His performance here, specifically in his facial expressions, really adds a lot of depth to every conversation he's in, and honestly, this really helps to flesh out an already very interesting character. The rest of the cast is great too, with notable standouts being Stanley Tucci and Sergio Castellitto, who play the notable liberal and conservative nominees respectively. Stanley Tucci in particular, I could totally see walking away with the Best Supporting Actor nomination. The movie looks fantastic too, specifically in its uses of reds and whites that are obviously very prominent with the Catholic Cardinal's garb. But the lighting choices made here, as well as the use of negative space, really add a lot of depth visually to a film that could have very easily relied on the natural beauty of the Vatican, or in this case, a very strong recreation of the Vatican. The score is very powerful and forceful too, but it's used sparingly enough that when it does show up, it feels all the more notable. And of course, I have to mention Edward Berger as the director here. Honestly, this movie could have been very stale with the wrong person at the helm, but I never found myself bored across Conclave's 2-hour runtime. And I think this thing could have just as easily veered into the overly sensationalized goofiness I mentioned earlier if there wasn't someone with a strong hand keeping things grounded, and Berger really succeeds here. He's able to maintain a serious mood while accounting for this wild story, while also making sure the pacing keeps up that entertainment value. His direction is really strong here, and all the little elements that he's bringing together are consistently great too. Overall, Conclave is one of the best dramas of the year so far, and a true signifier that we're entering Oscar season for movie releases. It does all the little things right and comes together in a way that's firing on all cylinders. I think the story unfortunately holds it back from being part of that exclusive upper echelon of movies for the year, but it comes really close. I'm going to be giving Conclave a very strong 8 out of 10. If you enjoyed the review, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. And if you've seen Conclave already, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I've been Nathan Orenstein with The No Show. Thanks for watching.